Before we start the review, I'd like to say the camera picture from the last review was a joke, and it wasn't. I actually did have this error issue. And I could still do reviews with it, but it made it a little more difficult with that error popping up every time I zoomed back. But I'd like to announce that I got a new camera that I got as an early birthday present from my mom. So these reviews will still be going, and I can now take better videos and pictures. So on to the box review. The box looks alright as usual. Now let's get on to Shockwave and gun mode. And so far the gun mode looks really good. The reason why I'm starting in gun mode is because he is packaged that way, so we'll be starting that way. And here is all the accessories he comes with. We're going to take a look at a few. He comes with a big sheet of instructions which shows you how to transform him, details about the figures, and what parts are from the cartoon. So he comes with quite a bit in the instructions. The tech spec card is not super thick. It's not insanely cheap, but it feels a little bit cheaper, and I wish the card was a bit thicker because I feel like I could accidentally bend this by accident. It comes with a little raffle ticket, which I have no idea what it is for. It normally is included with each Takara Masterpiece figure. And lastly, for sheets, he comes with a sticker sheet with the new Decepticon symbols or cartoon ones, and they're not bad, but I'm probably going to get some repro labels if I ever decide to put a Decepticon symbol on Shockwave. Now in gun mode, he's not that bad to handle. He's pretty light enough and heavy enough to feel like a real gun, and it's not too small of a handle or too big. Now if you pull the trigger, you can actually turn on a light that just turns on and off when you click the trigger. Now if you push a switch on the side, you can change it to a blinking on and off, sort of like a fade in and fade out light. Now if you don't want to wait for the blinking light to go off in a few seconds, you can turn the switch and it will automatically turn the actual blinking light off. And for those that want to know, the batteries for the gun lights are on the back of Shockwave, and it takes 2 AAA batteries. Also a note, I find it's a little difficult to open the battery compartments. You can screw it all the way out, but it seems a little tricky to get out. I'm not sure if it's just mine. It could just be mine, but just as a side note. The targeting sight looks pretty good, and when not in use, you can always flip it down. I find this hollow gap in the back of the gun is really annoying, and I felt like they could have covered that up with a flap of some sort, or find a way to fill that in somehow. I know the leg transformation requires it to be hollow, but I felt like they could have done something to hide it. The feet off the back are kind of annoying. I felt like they could have found a way to store it inside the handle. I mean, I get why it's not been able to do that because the feet are die-cast, but in other words, you can actually store the feet the other way to recreate that one scene in the cartoon where he's standing upwards in gun mode. He comes with a gun stand, which later in robot mode will become his backpack. This is actually really cool and a really nice way of thinking of how to store a piece in both gun mode and robot mode. Now his hose is actually a metal spring. Not only will this not degrade as easily as rubber, but the metal spring makes it easy enough for the figure to move his arm around when it is attached. It beats Fans Toys Quakewave in this realm. As for the rest of the accessories, we can wait until we get to robot mode for them. I normally don't do this, but we're going to compare them in gun mode with Fans Toys Quakewave, his competitor. The Masterpiece Shockwave is more cartoon accurate, while the Fans Toys Quakewave is more realistic. And both their colors are different, with Masterpiece Shockwave having a light purple, while the Fans Toys Quakewave has a dark purple. And I think it's about time for transformation. Shockwave looks really good in robot mode. His head sculpt is pretty accurate to the cartoon and looks great. He doesn't have any electronics in his eye, but he has which I think is very cool, and I'm really glad they added this to the figure. There are batteries in his gun arm. If you push this button, his gun arm will light up this really cool blinking effect. It only takes a few seconds before the gun arm light goes off. And if you are wondering, he takes 2 LR44 batteries. Now for some accessories in robot mode, you can take the actual gun hand and the other side hand off to replace it with new hands. You can put on a clear gun hand and a clear hand, and the lights on the gun hand are really good.
Nice.
This is supposed to represent the G1 toy, which had translucent parts for the hand and gun. You get a saluting hand, which is a very great karate chop, and you also get a clear version of the saluting hand. As for the final hand accessory, you can take the gun piece off and replace it with another hand, that way he can have 2 hands. And the final accessory he comes with is a minigun version of himself. Now the hose portion is rope, so just be careful with it. You can get him tabbed in the hand if the hand has a tab slot, but earlier figures like any of the Seekers or the MP11 versions might have a hard time holding them on. But he works pretty well with most Masterpiece figures. As for articulation, the head is on a ball joint and gets nice range up, down, and left and right. The shoulders are on 2 ratchet joints, which can get you some really great arm movement. You get a elbow swivel. You get a elbow ratcheted joint, but I've heard on the hand version, it's double jointed for the saluting hand. The hand is on a ball joint, and the fingers are all interlocked on this one pin to hinge. But the saluting hand is just on a ball joint, that's it, it's just a stable hand. The waist does not rotate or do anything unless you extend it up. Then it does rotate just a bit, not a lot. It can do an ab crunch forward and an ab crunch back. I do find the ab crunch forward likes to go back into the neutral position, which is a little annoying. He has a side friction joint, which I find a little loose due to the die cast in the feet. He has a ratcheted forward and backwards leg movement, a thigh swivel, a ratcheted knee, a ratcheted forward and backwards foot, and an ankle rocker. So for size comparisons, here he is with Titan's Return 6-shot, Figma Skyward Sword Link, Masterpiece Soundwave, Generic Masterpiece Seeker, Masterpiece Optimus Prime, Vans Toys Quakewave, and MP36 Megatron. Alright, let's get to the pros and cons. First, the pros. The transformation is simple but yet fun. It's not super complex or anything. I wish there were a little bit more interesting things happening, but I do enjoy transforming this guy. The articulation is decent. It's not like super fantastic, but you'll get all the articulation you need for some good decent poses. Shockwave is cartoon accurate. It's pretty much spot on from what I can tell from the cartoon images, so they did a good job with that. The light up features are great. They did a good job with that. I don't think I could ask for any more on the light up features. The fact that they kept them separated, I felt like there might have been a way to put one battery pack together to do all the light up features, but the fact that they separated them was probably for the best. Bonus pro, that the gun stand becomes the backpack in the robot mode. That is a great use of an item, that it can work in both modes, and it's just perfect. And I'll even include the little metal spring piece because I forgot to write that down, and that is a incredible idea. Best Shockwave hose ever. And I have a few nitpicks about the figure here. The side friction hips are a little loose. They're not so loose where they flop around all the place. He does hold his legs pretty secure, but shaking it just a little bit, he will lower the leg just a bit. But it's not horrible by any means. I wish he had sounds just like the G1 toy. I know that many people probably wouldn't want it. I'm a little weird, but I think they could have thrown in some soundboard or something that could have played while the lights were on. That would have been cool. It's not necessarily a nitpick for everyone, but just for me. The battery covers are tricky to get on and off. It really is. Once I unscrew it, I actually have to leverage the little screw where the screw piece is up to pop it out of place and kind of to get it back in. It's hard to explain, but it's not the end of the world. They're just a little tricky to get on and off. And my biggest con is his price, which I will get to in just a moment. Even with my nitpicks, I still think this figure is pretty great. I think Takara did a great job on Shockwave, and even did some things better than the third-party Shockwaves have done, which is actually kind of incredible and really neat. The light-up features are really cool. The transformation's actually neat. The articulation's good. The way they did the gun stand and backpack and the metal spring is absolutely amazing. There's probably a few things I wish they had improved on, but otherwise I'm pretty happy. Well, except for the price. His standard US price is about $160 online retailers, unless you got it from the Japanese retailers, which, sell considerably less. Probably around $100, just a guess though. If you would like to check out a comparison between the Masterpiece Shockwave and the Fan Toys Quakewave, I'll leave a little link to the video I made months ago. Be warned, it is a really older video, which it sucks. Maybe I'll make a revised version. So I almost have all the main Decepticons, well, except for Starscream and MP36 Megatron. Oh...